Before we start reading today, I want to do a quick review of what we've read so far. Some of this stuff we've talked about a lot. Towards the end, this is stuff that we read more recently, and we haven't had as much time to discuss it. Either way, it's been a while since we read, so I'm going to just quickly go through some of this with some textual evidence to help you guys remember what has happened in the story so far. This first part we spent a lot of time on because you guys did this activity that you see here. You did draw what's on the page here. So I won't spend much time on this. Basically, the narrator is riding to the house of Usher, passing along on horseback, as you can see here. The reason why he's going to the house of Usher is because he has a letter from Usher himself. You can see that here. And in the letter, Usher says, "I have an acute bodily illness," which means he's not feeling well, mentally specifically. So he wants the narrator to come see him. Other things you'll notice are a lot of setting details. And again, we've talked about this a lot, but it's a very gloomy setting, and there's some really interesting descriptions of the house. If you want more time looking over this, I'll post these images as well, so you can come look at this in more detail later on your own. Let's move on for now. The next part, we have not drawn this in any way, and I apologize. There was a lot going on in this section, so it might be kind of hard to follow my drawing. But the gist of it is we have some more action and more people. One of the first things that happens in this next set of paragraphs is the narrator enters the house, a servant takes his horse, that's what's going on over here, and then a valet, which is like a butler, conducts him down these dark and intricate passages, which you can see here. We've got a lot of this darkness in the house. Some other things he sees are these armorial trophies. He sees these somber tapestries on the walls, and he runs into a physician nearby the staircase. And if you don't know, a physician is a doctor. So that tells you already Usher is seeing a doctor. So whatever illness he has is fairly serious. He goes up the stairs, and then he enters the study where he's about to meet Usher. We learn that the study is a large and lofty room. We also get a lot of setting details here. The dark draperies on the walls, the long, narrow pointed windows. There are lots of books and musical instruments around, which tells you that Usher is really into the arts. You're going to see that later in the story. And finally, we spent some time talking about the furniture a couple days ago, but it's comfortless, antique, and tattered. So it's old. There's a lot of it, but it's not very comfortable. And that tells you something about what this house is like. Moving on, the last paragraph we have is paragraph 8. I am really sorry. Every picture I ever draw of Usher just ends up being terrifying, but I promise I am not trying to make him look like this. I'm just drawing what I see in the text. So maybe he is supposed to look terrifying, or that's what Poe wants. But you've got this cadaverousness of complexion. So he looks almost deathly, ghastly pallor. He's very pale. His eyes, and I think this is where the creepiness comes from in these drawings, but his eyes are large, liquid, and luminous. So they're kind of watery almost, maybe not quite that, but they're big and they're kind of shining. He has a finely molded chin, but with want of prominence. So that means it's kind of a weak chin. His lips are thin and pale, but a surpassingly beautiful curve. His nose is delicate, but has wide nostrils. And finally, his hair is described a lot. It's silken. I apologize, this is cut off by the tag here, but his hair is silken. It's grown, it's overgrown. It's of a wild texture, and it floated about his face rather than falling normally. But this is where we've stopped so far. We've got this description of Usher. We're about to lead into this conversation between Usher and the narrator. So be ready to start there today. If you want to take a closer look at any of these pictures, I will be posting these on the distance learning calendar for you to look at as well.